the 11th solar plane of the Lord Azrahaehl, the Bakh solar plane, dark green iridescent bubble ray and silver, the Kralano ray of art, music and color. My beloved ones, this afternoon I am going to give you a short description of another of the solar planes of this 12th solar system, the Bakh solar plane. The 11th is the plane of my beloved brother Azrahaehl. He is the lord of this plane, controlling for God the Kralano ray of art, music, and color. I would have you look upon this plane as a bubble, an iridescent bubble, and then fill that bubble with all the tones of music of the heavenly spheres. That is the 11th solar plane. The first thing that would strike you, if it were possible for you to visit this plane, would be the intense activity which goes on, yet there is no sound from the human beings. I say human, and yet, they are not as you are. There is no speech, only a language of thought, but there is another sound of great beauty, and that is the sound of Bakh solar plane music. Remember, my beloved ones, that in all these talks, I have to reduce all these exquisite experiences of life, of a very exalted nature, to the level of your earthly tongue, so that you can only partially understand, as that language cannot give you one iota of the beauty of the solar planes. Now, all your musical instruments of beauty were first thought out in the 11th solar plane of Azrahaehl, and then the image of these instruments was transmitted by thought transference into the minds of earth people, as well as to those of other planets through the intermediary of spirit. Thus, you do receive the lesser additions with their corresponding reduction in beauty and tonal qualities. There are thousands upon thousands of musical instruments in this plane, and it is the joy of the solar beings to pour forth their harmony of exquisite music in praise as a love offering to the great God of the universes. So much for the music section of this solar plane, and now we will speak of the art and color sections, because this plane is, as it were, divided into 3 sections: art, music, and color. In the painting section, all the experiments are carried out with the solar pigments, which are transmitted in reduced form to the pigments that you know, but the colors you are acquainted with are only a very few. For instance, the color yellow, which you have, can be divided into a comparatively limited number of shades of this beautiful color. The soft gentle tints are lost in their descent into dense matter. Actually, the shades of yellow run into thousands. The artists, and there are great artists on this Bakh plane, are forever painting beautiful pictures, and when one of your artists receives an inspiration to place a picture upon his canvas, that painting is already in existence in the solar plane of Azrahaehl. If you were to walk into the color section of this plane, you would find yourself immersed in an atmosphere consisting of spirals of color, gently flowing spirals from heaven to earth. Thus, is this section of the 11th solar plane the birthplace of color. You have seen balls of glass bubbles which earth children play with, containing spirals of intertwining colored threads. That is like the whole atmosphere of the color section of the Bakh solar plane, but with this immense addition, the spirals are alive. I would have you contemplate upon the great minds of the androgynous beings who live in this world of great beauty. There is a special section devoted to the colors of solar scarlet, magenta, blue and amethyst, and the particular work of the Bakh inhabitants is in the transmission of these colors, work which is only known to them. They ascend a hill, and upon this hill is set a tower, from which these particular colors are transmitted upon the Kralano ray, by a form of concentrated thought, reaching different planets in myriads of rays of color. Sometimes a new color is discovered on your planet, such as in a new shade of women's garments. All these came first from the color section of the solar plane of Bakh. All time is spent in experimental matters. All work is a labor of love for God, a threefold labor of art, music, and color. I will try to describe to you the great temple of the great city of Raska. It is round and roofless, entirely made of a transparent glass-like material with myriads of multicolored twisted spirals within the heart of each pillar situated all around the building. There are no walls with a flat surface. These beautiful and symmetrically designed pillars are joined with webs of woven glass, the effect of which is magical. Within, the floor is coated with a material which we call lanvan. The nearest equivalent known to you on earth is likened to a silver substance of mirror-like appearance, but more of a silvery brilliance than is known to you. As you walk upon the floor, the form is reflected in the lanvan. The great stone of worship is in the center. It is made of a blue opaque substance like blue jade, carven exquisitely, the surface being of the same beauty and brilliance as the floor. Upon the stone of worship rests a bowl of water, a great jar of many-colored flowers, and a bowl of incense continuously burning. The organ of the great temple is truly an instrument of great magnificence and of a different form from those in the other solar plane temples. The stops are all wind instruments, highly pitched, like the songs of the fairies, the trill of the birds, or the waft of the zephyrs. There is no singing, but a volume of airy music of sublime beauty pouring forth, in thought, symbolized by music in the temple as a love praise to God. The thoroughfares of the city are smooth as polished glass, in coloring of a shade unknown to you but hovering between amethyst and blue. The flowers on the plain of Bakh are of all the species of the solar planets, a glowing mass of multicolored splendor. As I have so often said before, it is so difficult to describe to you the ethereal beauty of the solar planes, the constant movement of color. Mark that well. The gentle artists at their work which none of those who live in dense human form in other planets can contact, and yet you receive their labors in music, in beautiful pictures, and in color, in their lower forms or vibrations. It is true that you have great beauty upon your earth. Much of this beauty is unnoticed by some, and yet, think in comparison, if you can, of the beauty of the 11th solar plane of Azrahaehl. The beings are all androgynous and their clothing consists of one cornflower-colored garment, hung from the shoulders to the feet and girdled around the waist with a band of solar scarlet magenta and blue plaited material. No head covering is worn and the hair of all the solar planet beings is as spun gold, except the adepts of the hierarchy, whose hair is as spun silver.